Welcome to class tonight. I do hope that you all are having a good day and you all are doing quite well. Tonight we are going to be covering another one of our problem-solving skills. You know that I feel, or know how I feel, these problems are incredibly important because these are real life. Well, we're going to be learning one more important skill tonight. As you can see on the board, we're going to be working on solving a simpler problem. Now let's go and get started. Now, before I actually show you the first problem that we're going to do, I want to talk about this. Because really, this skill is actually pretty easy. Because the skill is simply, if a problem seems a little scary, well then, make it easy on yourself. Change the problem a little bit, make it easier, and then solve. So, our problem. You need to tile a 17 1/2 foot by 13 3/4 foot rectangular floor with square tiles 1 1/4 on each side, 1/4 foot on each side. How many tiles do you need? So, when I look at that question, I think, wow, that's kind of scary because I see a lot of fractions. Okay? That looks a little scary. So, going back to our skill, solving a simpler problem, what can I do to make this a little easier? Well, if I think of it like this, 17 1/2. An easier number than 17 1/2 is going to be 18, right? And 17 1/2 is pretty close to 18, so I'm just getting pretty close. We worked previous weeks, we worked on what's called estimating. This is basically the exact same idea. We're going to be estimating first and then solving. Now this helps us because when we estimate, we can actually get pretty close, which then might actually help us solve the real problem. So if we think about it like this, 17 1/2 is going to be close to 18. 13 3/4, well that's really close to 14. Now if I want to, I'm actually going to do something you guys can't do. I'm actually going to draw an example. Okay? So this is going to be my 17, or really what I'm going to call my 18 by 14 foot room. It's going to be 18, and that's going to be 14. Now, my tiles are going to be 1 1/4. I'll erase that to get it out of your way a little bit. There we go. I'm going to, so 1 1/4. Well, 1 1/4 is pretty close to 1, right? So that's going to be close to 1. So if I think about it like this, I know that this side is 14 feet, and I'm going to put around 1 foot tiles on. So I can think about it like this. On this side right here, I'm going to need 14 tiles, because this is 14 right here. There's going to be 1, 2, I'm sorry, aren't to scale, but if I think about it like this, I go 14 divided by 1 to see how many tiles I'll need. It's going to be 14. So on this side, I need 14 tiles. And on this side up here, well, if it's 18 feet, 18 divided by 1 is going to equal 18. So up here, I'm going to use 18 tiles. So on this row and this row, I know how many I'm going to use. And so now all I have to do is multiply them together. 14 times 18 is going to equal 252 tiles. Now, that's not my final answer. This is an estimate. But it did tell me how I can solve the original problem. So now I have a plan. Remember when we talked about these problem-solving skills? We talked about create a plan, first of all. Now I have a plan. I'm going to take my numbers, so 17 1/2, I'm going to divide it by 1 1/4, and then 13 3/4, and I'm going to divide that by 1 1/4, and that will tell me how many tiles I'll need on each side, and then I can multiply this together and solve. So it's going to look like this. Send the page a little bit, one more time. Alright, so let me draw my example once again. So I know this is 17 1/2, and this is 13 3/4. So my first step, 17 1/2 divided by 1 1/4 to find out how many tiles are going to be on this side. So I'm going to make those improper fractions. It's going to be 34 35 halves. 5/4, that's divide. That's going to equal, well, it's 35 halves times 4/5. And I'm going to get, when I solve it out, so it's going to cross multiply. So it's going to be 1 and 7. That's going to be 1 and 2. It's going to be 14 over 1, which equals 14. So I'm going to need 14 tiles on this one. I'm going to need exactly 14 tiles. Now for this next one, let's turn the page a little more. I'm going to do the exact same process. So this is my first one. Now I'm going to do 13 3/4 divided by 1 1/4. So it's going to be 26, 27, 28, 29. You see I skipped a step there. Hopefully you see that right there. You can cross multiply. It's going to be 1. It's going to be 1. 29/5 is going to be, so it's 5. Actually, this first made a mistake. Hopefully some of you caught that. If you guys are looking in your book, you guys can follow along because this is the first problem in your book. So 13, I did 13 times 2, it's supposed to be 13 times 4. That's 51 plus 3, sorry, 52, and so it's going to be 55/4, that's better, times 4/5. Remember, I skipped a step. I made this improper fraction and reciprocalized. You see what I did up here. Now I can reduce, or cross multiply. That's going to be 1. It's going to be 1. That's going to be 11. So I'm left with 11 tiles on this side. So going back up here, I have 14 tiles on the top. I have 11 tiles on the bottom. So now all I have to do, like I did up here, is multiply them together. So 11 times 14. And my final answer, so 11 times 14 is going to be 154. So you see how, going all the way back up to the top, you see how I actually solved two different problems. But the first problem was easy, that was a simple problem. The second problem was the more difficult one. But the first problem gave me a plan. I planned it out using easy numbers. I planned it out. I recognized, okay, I can figure out how many are on this side and on this side, how many are on this side and on this side, and then I multiply them together and get my answer. So you see how solving a simple problem can make your job that much easier, a little bit easier on this. Let's try one more problem that's actually a good bit different than the previous one. It says, each of 12 people from company A, supposed to be gives, a business card to each of 17 people from company B. Each person from company B gives a card to each person from company A. How many cards are given? So, how am I going to do this? Well, with this one, I don't see any scary fractions that will make these a little more intimidating, but I do see some numbers. I see numbers that are kind of big, and if I made them a little bit smaller, maybe that would help me to solve this. So what I mean is by this. So instead of using the numbers 12 and 17, how about I use different numbers to make this seem a little easier, a little simpler? So instead of 12, let's just use 3, and then instead of 17, let's just use 4 people. 3 and 4 people, that's much more manageable. So now with this one, as I talked about in other lessons, it would be wise to draw a diagram. As with this one back here, you see I drew a diagram. With this one, I'm going to draw a diagram. So let's do 3 people. This is the simpler problem. So 1, 2, 3. And then 4 people from company B. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So now, so what's going to happen is company A people, this is A, that's B, company A people are going to give them, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Company A, so he handed out 4. He's going to hand out 4. and he's going to hand out 4 as well. So that's going to equal 12. Now, we're going to use these exact same lines because this person is going to give out 3, this person is going to give out 3, 3, and then 3. So this person is going to give out, so group B, company B is also going to give out 12. So all together, we see they gave out 24 cards. So with 3 people and with 4 people, they gave out 24 cards. So, the way we can show this is going to be like this. I'm going to extend the page a little bit. I learned that I could probably do, really we could do 3 times 4, 3 times 4 and get the first one, and then 4 times 3 and get the second one. All right, here, sorry. So 3 times 4 equals 12. 4 times 3 also equals 12, which is equals 24. So how about we do it like this? 12 times 17. So this is company A right here. They're going to give out their cards, and then company B is going to be 17 times 12. And then let's go ahead and add these together, because that was my plan up here. I added those together. So, scroll down a little bit. So, we're going to get, so it's going to be 14, 7, 8, so it's going to be 12. 204. Now, you can also imagine, this is also going to be the exact same thing. 14, so that's 34, and 17, so you can get 4, 204. You add those together, and bam, you have your answer. They handed out a total of 408 cards. And you say, Mr. Ursel, why didn't you just do it once? Why didn't you just do 12 times 7? Because that would make sense. And that's true, but the issue is, Company A handed it to Company B, and then Company B handed more to Company A. So that's why we had to do these actually 2 separate problems right here, and that gave us our final answer of 408 cards. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the lesson tonight. You see, I actually can use easier, simpler, less scary numbers and make my job that much easier. So that's the idea. Get a plan, use simple numbers, and then solve the big problem. Your homework tonight is going to be page 248, numbers 1, 3, and 5. Once again, page 248, 1, 3, and 5. Have a great night. Once again, if you have any questions, please bring them to class tomorrow. Thank you.